So it finally arrives, the SKITARII class has made it to Darktide. But is it any good? Is it worth my hard-earned pennies? What are the weapons? What are the abilities? Well, we'll dive into that and my experience so far, so let's go! Now, I feel I must preface this by saying I'm not quite level 30 yet, so all of this is my first impressions, or at least I'm up to level 23. I may be a little bit more by the time I make this video, but it's not level 30, and that's where a class's game really begins, of course. So any opinion I have here might change by the time I've played Auric a bunch at level 30, we shall see. But let's kick it off with melee weapons, the Arc Maul first of all, not the first shock maul in the game. This one, you may notice it has a little bar in the center of the screen that is gradually filling up by itself, but it will fill up as we bonk enemies round the face. Now this is a nice crowd control maul, just because it's a maul and that's what they do. You can get the heavy attacks into a nice left and right swing, or if you just go straight into two heavy attacks, you've got two overhead shots right there, which is good for the single targets. And this weapon's special, you turn it on, bring the electricity, and that bar in the center of the screen you can see will start going down and flashing white as we use up the charges. Very satisfying sound and feel to this, extra damage, extra power. But it's really all about the electrocution and the arc mechanic, so when you hit anything, it gets electrified by this maul. And then once an enemy is electrified, if you hit them again, the electricity will arc off and hit another enemy. So your damage comes from crowds really, trying to electrify them and spread that electricity all over everyone's face. So you could double that up with your electric ranged weapons, or there's a bunch of SKITARII skills that revolve around electricity, or of course you can synergize with teammates. So yeah, a nice crowd control weapon for all you electricity enjoyers. And then we've got the Mechanicus Power Sword, a bit of a Roman gladius vibe on this. It's quite short. So this weapon's a little more single target orientated, lots of stabs and overheads. The stab's going to be good against the armor as well. For this weapon's special, there's a bar in the center of the screen again, and every time you press it, it uses up one of those charges. You can do light attacks and heavy attacks using up a charge. And here's a light attack versus a heavy attack with the special, but this is actually the normal moveset, so you can just press this special button as you do your moves to mix these in with your existing combos. So you can just use them as you're chopping away. If you hit a stronger enemy and you want to hit them a little bit harder, you can throw in one of the special attacks. Although it pays to not always use the special attacks because you do get a passive buff from having those 6 bars full. But yeah, a nice weapon if you want to be an armor or elite and special killer. Although with the right light-heavy combo, you can make it do just horizontal swings for the crowd control, but the weapon's short length makes that only so good. Next up, the paired transonic blades, a nice one for all you dual blade enjoyers. Now the default moveset's all about the slashing and slicing the crowds. With this kind of weapon you probably want a lot of attack speed and crit chance, so you can just slice your way through all the lesser enemies super quick. But what if you should come up against some heavily armored enemies? Well, if you use the special attack button, it will change the moveset of the weapon, and now it's going to be a little more armor and single target orientated with stabs and overheads. So a very versatile weapon. You can deal with crowds, you can deal with heavier boys. Ignore the damage I'm doing here. This is damnation difficulty, and obviously I'm not level 30, so level 30 maxed out weapons will probably be much better than they seem here. But yeah, a nice weapon if you're looking to play speedy and agile, and with the ability to change movesets, it does make you quite versatile to deal with all kinds of enemies. Onto the ranged weapons then. First of all, a Mechanicus classic, the Galvanic Rifle, bringing those M1 Garand vibes. This thing, as you can imagine, is highly accurate, a DMR style, it's semi-automatic. Perfect if you like to play like me, ranged heavy, just trying to run around, clicking heads everywhere, John Wicking everything. So all about going for those weak spots, getting those headshots. It is quite small in the ammo capacity, only 8 shots before you have to reload. So you want to take those reload speed buffs, and it's actually pretty good against armor too. But yeah, this is my kind of weapon. This is peak SKITARII fun for me personally. Just simple precision accuracy. The special attack is just a bash, so nothing to think about there. There is a class path that focuses on ranged, so this is the perfect weapon to double up with that. And then we've got the Arc Rifle. This one, all about the electrocution. Like I said, you electrocute an enemy, you shoot them again, it'll arc off to hit another enemy. It's great against crowds for that reason. Just spam it off into crowds and you're going to get loads of damage done. But even against single targets, it still does a reasonable bit of damage, although hard for me to tell not being maxed out, but seems like it does. So overall, another fairly versatile weapon. You can use it at close range, at long range, and against all different kinds of enemies. Mostly best for the horde clearing though, and its special is just a boring old bash. It is also really high capacity as well, so you can fire a lot before you need to reload, but when you do, reloading does take a fair old while. And lastly, a revolver style weapon, the Phosphor Blast Pistol. Now, this is kind of interesting because it's almost more of a support weapon than an outright damage weapon. As you can see, we did some initial damage, and there's damage over time going on as well, and that lasts for a good 20 seconds, so that racks up a lot over time, but the white phosphor effect will splash from the target you've hit and land on other enemies, debuffing them, making them take more damage, and will make them easier to cleave through. This kind of damage over time weapon is nice against those enemies that like to run away all the time, like bombers and trappers, because it'll just keep damaging them even though they're out of sight. So a bit of a different weapon if you want something sort of revolver style. The blog says it's not that accurate, but I found it quite accurate. It's not going to hit as hard and kill things as well as a revolver, but it's more about that support weakening enemies so your teammates and you can better deal with them. Kind of reminds me of the Hivescum needle pistol, just with debuffs instead of damage. So that's all the new weapons for the SKITARII. Here's all the other weapons they can use as well. Now to the skill tree, it's a little different than any other class. It's got a bit of a northeast-southwest thing going on that gives you a little bit more freedom maybe and allows you to get to some of the later perks you might want a little bit earlier. And the way you charge your main ability is a bit different than most other classes where it's just strictly on a cooldown. With SKITARII, you're going to be gaining capacitance charges. These are gained through your actions from killing stuff and such, but you also get 3 charges of it, and if you keep those 3 charges, you will empower the ability more so than if you only have 1 charge. So you get a stronger effect if you let it build up. The first ability option is Advanced Combat Doctrines. This basically makes you incredibly accurate if you're using a ranged weapon, so a nice one for me as the ranged heavy galvanic rifle user, although with the galvanic rifle already being pretty accurate, I have to wonder how much use it actually is, because, well, it's basically an aimbot, right? See, if I shoot here on this enemy, I'm going to completely miss, obviously, but if I activate the ability, a blue cog comes up, and even when I miss, I'm still going to hit things, so it's literally an aimbot. Even if you miss, you're still landing shots. So maybe that's useful if you've got really bad aim, but for me, who I think my aim is fairly decent, it's not really that useful. Maybe it's better with some less accurate weapons though. I've only really used it with this. Although it does greatly increase reload speed, which is nice with the galvanic rifle especially. And this ability can be turned on and off at will, provided you've got charges, so that makes it kind of different and pretty cool too. Would maybe be better if it was just a damage boost rather than an aimbot. Or instead, you've got the Cord Claw Strike. This is a powerful melee attack, great against the stronger enemies, against bosses. So this one's for the single target killing of the heavier, stronger stuff, although you can modify it to make it a horizontal strike, which I assume then makes it better against crowds rather than single enemies. Or your last option, the Voltic Emitter. Basically a force push that explodes in all directions, shoots electricity out, electrifies everything, so that sets up the arc mechanic for those arc weapons if you're using the arc maul or the arc rifle. So good synergy for electrocution, probably the best ability of the bunch. And that's going to tie into our first Blitz ability, Arc Grenades, which, as you can imagine, electrify everything around it. It also says it prioritizes armored and specialist enemies, so a little more specific usage, but otherwise just a great grenade for clearing the crowds, electrifying them, setting up the electrocution mechanic, a solid option for a few rolls. Or you can take the Integrated Refraction Emitter, aka a personal shield. This straight up just protects you from range damage. I like this a lot when I can just stand up high somewhere and just start picking off all the ranged enemies in complete safety. I've got it extended to 12 seconds, so it lasts a good while with that. But yeah, a good one for specific tasks, or if you're just suddenly getting bombarded by gunners and ranged, you can quickly protect yourself. And lastly, of course, the Servo Skull, a little companion that follows you around and does your bidding. This will of course follow you around and damage enemies, which you can choose, or you can get it to do puzzles in events, which is very nice. There's also a fiery one you can get that throws down a nice damage AoE, but by far the Medicae Servo Skull is the best because it can literally save your teammates. Here our little bro's been blown out the window, he's taken full damage, I send my Servo Skull to save him, and he's going to be revived by that. We don't have to go all the way down there and take the risk. It can also get people out of trapper nets and things, so it's just incredibly useful, and I feel like it's going to be an essential bring for every Auric run, to be honest. So yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff for SKITARII, a lot of different ways to play. You can fill pretty much any role that any other class can fill. Although you might not be able to do everything quite as well as other classes, you can kind of jack of all trades it and do a little bit of anything and everything. With the skill tree, you can make yourself more melee focused, ranged focused, support focused, or even electric focused. So a lot of fun to be had, and I've been enjoying it so far, even though I find leveling a bit of a grind because I have to play on Uprising difficulty and Malice difficulty, which I find pretty damn boring. I'd much rather start on kind of Heresy if I could. But alas, we're forced to play through the baby difficulties, but I'm looking forward to getting to level 30, playing on Auric, seeing what it can really do. But mostly I've been going for the ranged heavy build with the galvanic rifle and the shield, finding a nice high point in an area and just picking off all the longer ranged enemies while my allies deal with the closer ones. Honestly, that's my playstyle with most classes where possible, but it feels pretty nice on SKITARII. Honestly though, the galvanic rifle is the only one I really like. I'm not a huge fan of the arc rifle or the pistol, more just because they're not my kind of weapons than anything. And as for melee weapons, I don't love any of them yet. I like them all, they're all cool, but I'm yet to really build around a specific melee weapon and try to use it. Maybe I'll try it with the transonic blades, that might be a bit more fun with the speed and the crits. I think I've probably enjoyed the power sword the most so far, but there is some nice variety across the weapons. The only thing that does irk me a little bit is that none of the weapons have a second mark. There's only one mark of every weapon, so only one type. And I found that a little bit weird, and also that all of the ranged weapons only have a bash as their special. There's no unique abilities for the ranged weapons. So two things I kind of have question marks on there. I do wonder if maybe there aren't any marks because a lot of the weapons are pretty versatile. Like the arc rifle, it's good at close range and at long range, so you don't really need a second mark of it. The transonic blades, obviously they can go between more crowd clearing or more single target damage, so again they don't really need necessarily a second mark. So maybe there's more of a reason for that than I realized, but either way I don't think it matters greatly. The weapons are still pretty fun and pretty versatile, so don't really need second marks, just curious that there's not any. There's some fun mechanics going on as well. The electrocution being a big focus is pretty fun, a little bit different from other classes, and can synergize with other classes that cause electrocution. As for special abilities, the one that gives you super accurate aim, as I say, not really sure how useful that is. I think the other two abilities are way more useful, but by all means, maybe I'm missing something with it. Maybe it's better than I realized with different weapons or something. The Servo Skull is a really nice addition as a companion. It's kind of like the dog, but instead, while the dog is more about killing things and attacking things, the Servo Skull is more about useful utility and helping you out. So it's nice that they make it feel like the Servo Skull is serving you in various ways. Overall, SKITARII is some damn good fun so far. Looking forward to playing it at the highest level. Seems to be going down well with the community as well. 20,000 players online right now, and the peak player count seems to be the biggest since launch. So needless to say, it's gone down a treat. And there we go. I'm sure many of you have been enjoying SKITARII. Let me know how you're feeling about it. Otherwise, I hope you've enjoyed this. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, check out the YouTube memberships or the Patreon. Otherwise, I'll see you in the future.